I'm just going to go through the science investigation report, just give you a little bit more of an idea on how you can respond to each of the sections of the report effectively. This potentially could be quite a long one, but hopefully the detail in this will help you respond really well to this investigation. So make sure you stop it, you pause it, you go back and you watch it again for those bits that you need to. So sorry about the noise in the background. There's a vacuum cleaner and someone may come in anytime and interrupt me. Probably Mr. Vince. All right, so we scroll down all the way to where you need to write your report. There are sections here that are highlighted. Those are the things that you need to respond to. So make sure you keep the underlined headings when you are writing a response, but just delete the underlined sections there. Okay, so let's look at our introduction. The background information section requires 3 paragraphs. Now there's 3 dot points that you need to respond to, and they are outlined here below. So you need to explain to the structure and function of the nervous system, including why it's vital that humans are able to detect and respond to changes in their environment. You need to discuss what happens when you react to a stimulus in terms of the stimulus response pathway. I would include a flow diagram here for that one. Define reaction time. You need to do some research into what that is, and to outline some factors that can affect reaction time and state the factor to be investigated in this investigation. All right, so this is probably going to take you about 3/4 to a full page of typed writing. So please make sure that you do some research to support the things that you're saying, and make sure you reference this in... Oh, good. Make sure you reference that at the end. If you're not sure on how to reference, there's an online referencing generator on our school website in the library section. So, purpose of the investigation should be written in this format. We've got it here for you in the format of to determine the effect of varying ... on ... So it could be something like the stimulus on the reaction time. Okay, independent variable. State the independent variable, what has been deliberately changed in each trial. Explain how it is going to be altered in detail using complete sentences. So you make sure that you need to make sure that you describe this one here and not just give me 1 or 2 sentences. You need to actually describe how it's changed. So what you did each time you changed that trial for those different stimulus. Now, the dependent variable is the thing that's going to be measured. Make sure you include the units for it as well. We measured it in centimeters. Okay. For the hypothesis, you're making a prediction here that links the independent to the dependent variable. Although you've already have your results, this one here you've got to kind of imagine that you haven't done the practical before and you're making a prediction about what's going to happen. All right. Your justification, what that does is give us some reasons why you think that's going to happen, why that hypothesis is an appropriate one for you to state. Okay, so you want to support that with logical scientific reasoning about the stimulus response pathway. Now, in discussion with some of you, you've found that for sight and sound, there is research to suggest that either one or the other or both of them are very quick. So for your hypotheses, if you predict that your sight and your sound are going to be quicker than touch, that's okay, just as long as you make that quite clear. You can also, in your justification, explain that research does suggest that both of them will be quick, but it's not clear which is the quickest. Give some scientific evidence about that as well. Constant variables. So this one here, you're stating the constant variables and specifying how they could impact the result and how they can be kept constant. So some things like the word that you said in the sound trial, or the type of ruler you used, or the location which you touched someone to let them know that you are going to drop the ruler. Okay, you need to explain why it's kept constant and how it's kept constant. Keep this same table in, just input your data into it. Materials, put this into dot points. State the materials, including quantities. Shouldn't be too many in that one. Method, for this section here, because you follow the same method that's included in the report, all you need to do here is write same as method in part 1. For the results section, you have a table that's been provided. In these top headings, top boxes here of each column, you write the name of the stimulus and then you put the units that it was measured in. Beneath it, you record your average scores for each 3 trials. So for sight, for sound, and for touch. You need to graph that data in Excel using the average scores from each trial. Make sure you clearly label the graph, so the title of the graph, as well as the title for the Y and X axes, making sure you've included the units in brackets there as well. You then need to interpret in your own words what the graph is showing. Okay, so you need to interpret what the graph is showing about the results. All right, make sure you include some distinct references there to data. So saying, for example, that sight was the highest of the trials shown. So the quickest reaction time of each of all the trials was sight. It was an average of this many centimeters compared to this one. So in your discussion, you need to relate your results to the hypotheses, restate the hypotheses, and state whether it is supported or refuted. Refuted just means that it wasn't supported. You need to explain your results using scientific reasoning, relate to the stimulus response pathway. Okay, so you want to explain why one of your results was the quickest, second quickest, and third quickest. Comment on whether the results were consistent with the other trials. Okay. You might have had inconsistent results, but it's still important that you discuss those and explain maybe why. So comment on whether the results were consistent with your partners and some of the other members in your class. Did some people's reflexes change? Comment on whether the measuring equipment provided sufficient precision. Was it accurate enough? Could it be improved? Justify whether sufficient data was collected to draw accurate conclusions about the hypotheses. So if you collected more data, would it give you a more accurate result about which was the quickest stimulus or quickest sense when tested? Suggest ways that the method could be improved. We talked about that in that first section where we've got the review of the practical, that little section right down the bottom there. We talked about some of those methods of improving it. So a different perhaps way of measuring it, or making sure that we're all using the same type of ruler, so the same material ruler, etc. So explain how an alternative investigation on reflexes or stimulus response pathway could be conducted. Give a brief outline as to how this could be investigated. Consider method and variables. So things like sleep deprivation, things like substance use, and how that affects the stimulus response pathway. Your conclusion, all you're doing is summarizing the main findings of the investigation. So you're not talking about anything new here. You're just alluding to the main points that you found out in this investigation. Your bibliography, make sure you're listing your sources that you've used anywhere in this investigation, and make sure you've used the correct format, which is either APA or Harvard. Either one, just as long as they're consistent. All right, that's all. If you've got any questions, make sure you send me an email. Probably won't be able to respond till I get back, but hopefully this gives you a bit of a better idea of what you need to include for each of these sections. Good luck.